Welcome to the Doctors Who podcast. Today we are covering Ender's Game Chapter 2. Today we get to learn a little bit more about Ender's home life, and it's not much better than his school life. Oh, he has a lot of problems with his family, especially with his brother Peter. We'll get to hear about these troubles coming.
Hello, welcome to the Doctors Who podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Chip.
I'm Brian.
And we are covering Chapter 2 of Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card, entitled Peter. Let's go ahead and jump right in.
Well, this one, again, kind of like I said in the last episode with the economy of words that Card uses, he does a good job of really describing what an asshole Peter is in like 2 or 3 sentences. So, he's threatening to kill Ender. He's going to play, Humans and Buggers, I think they called it, and basically starts beating the crap out of him. And does Valentine step in and kind of help, cool things down? I think that's what happened here. And then at the end of the chapter, the Ender is lying in bed, pretending to be asleep, and Peter comes in and apologizes, but I don't know that it was a sincere apology or if it was, if he still has some ulterior motive, because he seems like he plays mind games with Ender a lot. But basically, yeah, Peter equals malicious, manipulative, not nice, and it basically shows how complicated Ender's home life is. It's even more complicated than at school, maybe.
Peter's kind of messed up, and we already knew this going into it because of the last line of the last chapter, where Ender is pretty much like, I just don't want to be like Peter. Don't let me become Peter. And I was kind of dubious when I read through this. It's been a while since I've read the book, but I was like, oh yeah, Peter, he's just a big jerk the entire, that entire second chapter. Like, let's play this imaginary game and I'm going to beat the heck out of you. And it just really shows, it also shows Ender's resilience. And I like the fact that Ender is familiar with the game. I think it's astronauts and buggers, and he volunteers to be the bugger even though he knows what will happen if his brother catches him. It's a very complicated brother, very complicated home life, but I think it's also a very complicated main character that we're looking at too. So a lot of depth building quickly through this chapter.
So a couple things stuck out for me. The first, keeping on the Peter theme, I believe we get the, I don't know if it's come out directly or we're given enough to make the assumption that he's this way because he washed out of this program that requires the monitor. Ender made it longer than he did. He's been bitter. He's been jealous. All of these things. And one thing I was left wondering is, does the monitor leave any residual effects on behavior, attitude, things like that? Because you see Ender getting the monitor out in the previous chapter, and shortly thereafter, that same day, he beats this dude a new one. And then you've got Peter, who you see some very similar behavioral characteristics. So my thought was like, well, is the monitor actually doing something other than monitoring? I don't know the answer to that. It's just a thought. The other thing I noticed was in the beginning. Again, we had the same conversation with those two unnamed figures, and they're talking about how they've been keeping tabs on him since the monitor came out, and one of them says, I went back through some of the tapes. I can't help it. I like the kid. I think we're going to screw him up. And the other says, of course we are. It's our job. We're the Wicked Witch. We promise gingerbread, but we eat the little bastards alive.
Jeez.
So, I kind of like that dynamic where you've got these two people that have to do a crappy job, and their emotions are still weighing on them. Yeah.
Well, it humanizes them too. So
it does.
It creates complicated characters rather than cookie cutter characters. Not to talk about gingerbread, but and I don't know if he uses that. Does he use that same structure with every chapter where there's kind of this adult point of view, and then it kind of dives into kind of Ender's thing?
Looking ahead, I did ask myself the same thing, and I think every chapter had it.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that because it kind of adds to that air of mystery of who's monitoring Ender. What's this program? What, You know,
Right.
what are the buggers? Because I don't remember if the buggers came up in the first chapter or
They
if it was
might have
just
been
this one.
Just a
mentioned
word
in
or two.
passing, but
I assume
this
it's
is where
some
we
sort
first...
of I know it's a sci-fi book, so I assume it's some sort of an alien thing that
I kept thinking like the bugs from Starship Troopers.
Ooh. And Doogie Howser.
Wait.
Yeah, he
was
was
in
the
Starship
Nazi
Oh.
genius.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Also in the new Matrix trailer.
I did see that too.
Yeah.
But so the other thing that this chapter did, so we got introduced to Peter, which I think the three of us agreed we don't like him. We also get introduced to Valentine. who
Yeah, is it
his sister.
Valentine or Valentine?
Tomato.
Okay.
Potato.
I mean, I don't have one way or the other that I've heard it. It was just like, is Valentine actually like the name he was going for, or
I don't know. Ender doesn't sound Italian, but
Valentino?
Valentina?
Well, his name is also Anthony.
Andrew.
Andrew.
Oh, there we go.
That's less Italian. Never mind.
Isn't it Andrew Wiggin?
Yeah.
So we don't. That's another mystery. Why is he called Ender? Did they talk about that? But anyway, we meet his sister, and then we meet his parents, and it's the relationships are all completely different. So Peter obviously is antagonistic towards him. Valentine or Valentine is very caring and very loving towards him, and then his parents almost seem indifferent. That know, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, he's here, but we got to deal with him, but whatever.
Yeah, it's an interesting set of dynamics, and it's a good call out because I mean it's
well. And then I think this is the chapter where he kind of talks about how awkward he makes his parents feel because he's a third. We still don't know what a third is, but I assume it has something to do with birth order. But it's apparently they're awkward around him.
Apparently.
Oh.
Apparently. Yeah, see what you did there. Good job.
Yeah. I don't know. Go ahead, Brad.
There's a whole lot of subtext going on in these dialogues with his parents. It seems like he's very much on his own outside of his sister. Like he doesn't like his brother. He doesn't really seem to get along great with his parents. His sister kind of looks out for him, but otherwise, I mean, his school life, his home life, he's just a loner.
The scene with with him and Peter playing astronauts and buggers. What Card does here with Peter, it really sets you up to hate him. You're like, you know what? Ender could kill him, and I would be okay. And then you get the very end of the chapter, and he comes in, and he thinks Ender's asleep, and he apologizes. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh shoot,
What's up with that?
maybe I'm a little less gung ho about his death now.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that we learn here too is the age difference. So we learn that Peter is 4 years older than Ender, and I think we learned that Ender was 6 in the first chapter. So the difference between a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, just size-wise and physicality, I mean, Peter could really do some damage to him.
Yeah.
Or could he? Is there something about Ender that he would defend himself if it came to that?
Sure. And
I assume that makes Valentine about 8.
right, because she's in the middle. Yeah. I don't know. It seems like that first chapter really sets up the school conflicts. This chapter setting up the home conflict, and I think, just judging from the back of this, right?
There's going to be an Earth
The
conflict
survival
at some
of
point.
humanity depends on a military genius who can defeat the aliens, but who? Ender Wiggins, brilliant, ruthless, cunning. So this is setting him up to leave.
Well, this is like the beginning of a hero's journey.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Middle class household, interesting family dynamics.
There's kind of like a Harry Potter element to it too.
There really is.
A little bit, yeah.
He's living with a family that doesn't necessarily want him there.
Right.
But Harry didn't have a sister though, or half sister, or
true.
whatever.
You did have Dudley.
Oh yeah.
Well, yes.
You did not want to become Dudley.
Anyway. Anyway, join us next time as we discuss Chapter 3 of Ender's Game. If you did enjoy this video, please click the like button. If you want to keep up with what we're doing, go ahead and click that subscribe button and hit the bell so that when we get new content posted, you get notifications. And if you have some comments, there's a section for that. It's down there. Use it. We will respond unless you're a bot, in which case we probably won't.
Unless it's a good comment.
I mean, yeah, if you're
It's
a
true.
clever bot, well, we'll probably entertain conversation until you become uninteresting. But anyway, thank you so much for your time. Join us next time on Chapter 3, and until then...
Hello.